Shri Rama 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 iti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tat Tulyam Ramanama Varanane. This is a beautiful verse in Sanskrit that speaks about the importance of Ram's name, the name of Ram. And this was given in answer to a question that was posed by Parvati Devi to Lord Shiv, who said, "Hey Parvati, the crux or the essence of all the 1,000 names, the venerated names, the holy names of Lord Vishnu reside in this one name Ram. And that Ram is the Nayak, the hero of this great epic novel, which is Srimad RAmAyanam. And we have been in that particular scene where Vishwamitra, who accompanied Ram and Lakshman, made them achieve so many things, and being the Acharya, being in the position of a preceptor, he gifted them, he blessed them with the best of Astra Vidya and Shastra Vidya. So after this, Ram proceeds along with Lakshman, and while they enter the city of Mithilapuri or Janakpuri, at that point of time the king of Janakpuri, who was Siradhvaj, who was also called Janak, welcomes both Ram and Lakshman, and above all, sage Vishwamitra. So he is impressed with the valor, the courage, the beauty and the charming personalities of Ram and Lakshman, and he immediately thinks, I am blessed with two daughters, Sita and Urmila. Why shouldn't I get both of them married to these two young men? While he thinks about this, Vishwamitra, who is a person who has realized the Brahman, hence he is called Brahma Rishi, he says, Hey Janaka Mahamuni, hey, you must be surprised because Janak was a great king, but people addressed him as Janaka Muni or Janak Raj. Why? Because though he lived like a king, his life or his living was just like a simple Brahmin's. So he addresses the learned Janak, saying that Janak, you may be thinking that these are the sons of King Dasharath. Probably yes, they are the sons of King Dasharath, that's just for namesake. But they were brought up by the great priest, the learned person, the illustrious sage Vasisht. And thereby I can assure you that they have imbibed a lot of values and virtues from this great sage. While this is happening, Vishwamitra, to impress upon the family priest of Janak, who was none but Shatanand, says, Hey Shatanand, it is this Ram who helped in the redemption of the curse that was given by your father on your mother, and your mother is back to form now. So this is how the entire scene is covered. Now Shatanand takes this as an opportunity to give a little detail and of history about what Vishwamitra was, what kind of a great king he was, and how he turned into this great Brahma Rishi status. Kaushika was the name of Vishwamitra. Kaushik was the son of the great king called as Gadhi. So he was Gadhi Sutta. While he was ruling, one day he went to the hermitage of Vasisht, and he was so surprised that Vasisht, being such a simple sage, could feed his entire army with great varieties of food. He was surprised, and he asked, Hey Vasisht, how could you feed us with such great food? Vasisht said, we are blessed with a wish-yielding cow called as Shabala. It is Shabala who is giving you all this. So Vishwamitra said, he was Kaushik, then he said, why don't I get that Shabala? You are after all a Brahmin. Why would you need this cow? I am a Kshatriya, I am a king. I will need this cow for all purposes. Give me the cow. And Vasisht said, we are Brahmins who rely on substances that have to be used in everyday yajnas. So it is Shabala who helps us out. So we will not be able to give you. So Kaushik, the king, started fighting. He started waging a battle with Vasisht, and he miserably lost. To win over Vasisht, Kaushik goes and performs the great penance to Lord Shiv. Lord Shiv appears before him and he asks, Hey Kaushik, what do you want? I am impressed with your penance. He says, if you are impressed with my penance, please do grant me the knowledge of how to use archery as a tool to win over my enemies. Please give me that knowledge which helps me with all the mantras, where it helps me turn all the weapons into astras, all the shastras to astras. He says, I will give you the knowledge of all astras, hey Kaushik, and I also give you the ultimate weapon called as Brahmastra. So Kaushik, who gets the Brahmastra, walks towards the hermitage of Vasisht and says, Hey Vasisht, you were arrogant. You were level-headed that you had all the powers. Now come out and wage a battle with me. Vasishtha brings an object with him, which we saw in the last episode. It's called as Brahmadandam, the holy Brahma staff. So he brings that staff, and while Kaushik aims the Brahmastra at Vasishtha, he shows his Brahmadandam, the holy staff, and the holy staff absorbs the Brahmastram into it. Then Kaushik realizes there is still a lot of efforts that I have to take to reach the status of this Vasishtha. So he goes and performs penance. While he is about to complete his penance and he's got the power of that particular penance, he meanwhile sees another king. Let's see who this king was. This king was an administrator, but a very poor administrator. He was a person who went through the right education but did not practice anything of it. So he had committed in his lifetime 3 major sins. One, he drew away the cow that was given to a Brahmin. So the Brahmins in those days, they used to live with the cows, they used to get the milk out of it and used to live with whatever milk and ghee and use those substances for their yajna. So he drove away the cow that was given to a Brahmin. That was the first sin that he had incurred. Second, he married a lady who was actually supposed to be the wife of somebody else. Third, he never offered even a bit of his food, even a particle of his food towards the Lord, because it said, Kabale, Kabale, Govindam. Every grain of yours when you take, you should need to think of the Lord. Well, let's make it simple. You need to keep thinking of the Lord every minute. So these were the 3 sins that he had performed. Since he had performed these 3 sins, from then on he was called as Trishanku. So this Trishanku, he went and sought the help of Vasishtha Rishi, saying that, hey Vasishtha Rishi, please help me perform a yajna which helps me go to the heaven, which helps me reach heaven with this mortal body. I am very much attached to my body. Vasishtha said, I don't perform such mean and cheap yajnas. You may go and seek the help of some other Rishi. He meanwhile goes to the sons of Vasishtha and says, your father has denied, why don't you help me? His sons say, while you have been to our father, you have the audacity to come and ask us to perform the yajna. We now curse that the sacred thread that hangs on your shoulder shall turn into a rope, and all your silk clothes shall turn into clothes that have been made out of the skin of dogs, and you shall become a chandal forever. And he turns into a chandal. And this body where he was asking to reach the heaven had now turned into a body where people would rebuke and even feel uneasy about his presence. Now he goes and tells Vishwamitra, who had just completed his penance, hey Vishwamitra, people say that you're such a learned person, please help me take this mortal body to heaven. Vishwamitra says, I can't do that. But then he says, even Vasishtha Rishi denied it and you're also denying it. When he heard that Vasishtha had denied it, Vishwamitra thought, if Vasishtha denies something, I have to accept that. So he said, with my penance power, I shall create a special world for you. And he says, hey Trishanku, with my penance power, I shall create a separate world for you. Go there. And while he goes, Indra pushes him with his thunderbolt. And he said, Agra, you stay there. And so that's called as Trishanku Srishti. It was not on this earth, it was neither in heaven, it was somewhere between. So if we come with ideas that don't lie in either of the parties, people say in those days that you've created a Trishanku Srishti. So he created a Trishanku Srishti, and thereby Vishwamitra lost all his powers by just creating a world that was meant to carry the mortal body there. What kind of a thought, mean thought Trishanku had, and how Vishwamitra supported. He lost all the power. So again he went and performed tapas, and by the end of it he was enamored by the beauty of a certain damsel called as Menaka. And Menaka and Vishwamitra lived in union of love for a very long time, and as a result was born a beautiful girl who was abandoned both by the father Vishwamitra and the mother Menaka, who left for heaven. Now it started raining. And then the birds come. In Sanskrit, the word for birds is shakuhu. All the shakus came and they protected the girl from being drenched in the torrential rains. Since this girl was protected by the shakus, which are birds, she was called Shakuntala. And this Shakuntala is the one who gets married to a famous king called Dushyanth, and they have a son called Bharat, because of which our country is called Bharat. Meanwhile, Vishwamitra, who spotted that all his penance powers were lost in having a union with Menaka and then having a child, again goes and performs a tapas. Now he gets the status of a Raja Rishi. Still he is not equated Vasisht, because Vasisht was a great person called as Brahma Rishi. Now he was a Raja Rishi. While he came back, there came another damsel, another lady who tried enamoring Vishwamitra, but Vishwamitra was careful this time. See, people always learn from experiences, and it was enough that he had one. So he was totally agitated and frustrated at Indra for having sent such damsels, and he curses Rambha to be stoned, to be petrified for years together, and later she was redeemed by some other great person. Now he again goes and starts performing penance, and by the end of it, Brahma appears and says, "Hey Vishwamitra, it is sincere efforts that you have taken time and again. People call it perseverance. You try again and again and again and again till you achieve or attain that particular objective, and you have done that. So it is high time for me as a deity to bless you with that particular title that you have wanted, and I shall call you Brahma Rishi from now on. From a Rishi, you became a Raja Rishi. From Raja Rishi, you have become a Brahma Rishi. Hey Vishwamitra, you will be a friend to the entire world. Vishwasya Mitraha, you will be a friend to the entire world, and you will be respected by the learned people." And Vishwamitra was given this Brahma Rishi status. But Vishwamitra would never be happy if Brahma calls him Brahma Rishi. All that he wanted was Vasisht to tell, "Hey Vishwamitra, you're a great Rishi, you're a Brahma Rishi." So he went right before Vasisht and said, "Hey Vasisht, you denied giving me the status of a king. You denied my powers. Now I have worked hard, very hard, and now I have become a Brahma Rishi. Do you agree that I am a Brahma Rishi?" That time, it seems, Vasisht said, "Yes, ultimately, I will agree, and I am agreeing that you are a Brahma Rishi." So it was a belief in those days that if a person keeps trying and still has not got a comment or a commendable word from his boss and finally gets it, they'll say it is as if sage Vasisht would utter from his mouth that Vishwamitra is Brahma Rishi, because Vishwamitra had to take so much of efforts to get that. So Vishwamitra had a history, had a tale. Above all, it was Vishwamitra who, with his penance, performed so much of contemplation on the essence of all Vedas, brought the essence of Vedas together and called it the Gayatri Mahamantra, which all of us keep reciting throughout the world. So the essence of Gayatri Mantra, the importance of Gayatri Mantra, the Gayatri Mantra by itself was given by sage Vishwamitra, and we are indebted to him forever. Now let's see what Vishwamitra has to tell to Janaka, and how Janak, the great king, come sage, takes Ram and Lakshman to his kingdom, and let's see how the bow breaking happens in the great sacrifice. For that, we need to wait for the next episode. Thank you.